Is it hard for you to say no? There's so much out there as far as learning how to say no. What I think makes my industry even more interesting in this department is learning how to say no when there are so many other people willing to say yes. There is going to be somebody younger. There is going to be somebody prettier. There's going to be somebody who chooses to use different maneuvers to get what they want at all costs, who will never say no. And you have to decide when you want to start saying no. And it takes time, especially when you're young, especially when you're eager, especially when you're so grateful to be in a place where you are, almost too grateful, almost like a boss is doing you a favor by having you there, even though you work super hard for them. I want to tell you a story about when I should have said no and I didn't. My sister was getting married, and she got married right around the holidays. So you know how that goes with people taking time off. Well, when people are taking time off and you're young, especially when you're young in television, this is the perfect opportunity to get some experience. Right about this time, I was starting to fill in on the anchor desk. And they wanted me to anchor the 11 p.m. news on a Friday night. And it was one of the first times I got to do a weeknight. And I looked at my schedule and I realized that was my sister's rehearsal dinner. My sister, her rehearsal dinner for her wedding. So what did I do? I left her rehearsal dinner early and I anchored the 11 p.m. news. Do you know the only person in the whole wide world who remembers that sacrifice? Me. Maybe my sister, but definitely me. Do you think those bosses the next day, that night at 11:31, realized the sacrifice I made? No. You want to hear another part of that story? Not only did I anchor the 11 o'clock news, I slept at the station to wake up and anchor the 5 a.m. news. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right? I look at my career then and I look at it now, and I have to say that I would change. And I don't like to admit that. I don't think any of us want to admit that they would change things along the way because everything was a learning experience. But that one, I would change. Learning how to say no comes with failure. Learning how to say no comes with success. But I believe learning how to say no, most importantly, comes from finally being in a place when you are confident with your worth. It was a few years ago when another news director from a different station gave me a call and wanted me to start doing some work at that channel. And I wanted to. I missed it. But I knew in the long run that position was not what I wanted out of my life. And I was candid on the phone and I said, thank you. A few years ago, I would have jumped on this. There are plenty of women who would jump on this job, but I have to say no. And I admitted, and it's hard for me to say no. Now I say no with no hesitation, with no problem at all. And it's interesting because I feel like it has gotten me farther, has given me bigger opportunities, and I've earned more respect because I'm willing to say no and because I stand by my no's. Another opportunity came probably a year after that, and I said to my husband, I'm not interested. Unless I can take my kids to school every single morning and pick them up every afternoon, I'm not interested in getting back in to the regular day-to-day news. Do you know the first words out of the mouth of the person who called me said what those words were? He said, hey Jen, how would you like to be on TV every day and still be able to take your kids to school and pick them up every afternoon? Now to that, I said yes.